tell us a little bit about him as well.
I met him when he wrote his first, well, not his first book, but his Kitchen Confidential came out. And I was a food journalist. I had a TV program in Minnesota. I was doing a radio show. I was writing for our local monthly glossy city magazine. And so when Tony came to town, he sought me out, and we went and had lunch. And he was on his first book promo tour. The Kitchen Confidential had just come out. It was a huge hit. This was after the New Yorker magazine article. And we sat down and had lunch, and we started comparing notes, and we basically had the identical history in a lot of ways. We'd cooked with some of the same people in New York. We'd gone to some of the same schools. We'd had some of the same life experiences. We had a lot of the same friends. And it was really interesting because we knew right then and there that we would be good acquaintances, but that was where it was going to stop, because I'm sort of, sweetness and cream and giggly and smiley, and he's not. Tony is one of my 2 or 3 favorite food journalists. I think he's one of the smartest guys in the food business. I think he's a brilliant writer. I'd rather read his blogs about food when he's writing them at 3 in the morning off the cuff than anyone else's edited material. I think he's prescient, and I think he's an immense talent. And he is wonderful to spend time with. We had a blast on the show. I showed up at 7 in the morning at a bar. The setting was supposed to be like noon. And, I'm just all like, hey, how you doing? How's everyone doing? This is really great and everything. And literally, Tony walks in, the collar is up. I mean, he lives, we both, the thing that I like about our shows, and actually the same is true about several other people that are on our network, is that we really are living our lives the way we are on the camera. That's really me. We don't do a lot of second takes. Those things are actually happening to me. Tony's the way he is in his show. Samantha's the way she is in her show. And I think that's fabulous. We get to be ourselves on our network. And, Tony, the first thing he does is sidles up to the bar, starts flirting with a girl. Wasn't married at the time. Wasn't a father at the time. Starts flirting with the girl and immediately orders a drink. And I said to him, late night? And he says, well, I haven't been to bed yet. He says, I just left Ruhlman and Batali at Batali's house. That is his thing. And he's a genius. And it's so much fun to hang out with him. The handful of times we've been in the same place doing promotional things and stuff like that, it's just a rare treat for me, because I'm a huge fan, first and foremost. I don't include myself in that group of food and travel superstars. Those are still the guys that I want to be when I grow up. So yeah, so there's some hero worship going on too. But it was fun hitting him in the chest when he went after me on the boardwalk when we shot our show in the crossover moment. Yes?
How much research do you do before you get to the destination, or do you just go to the destination and seek out the locals?
Both. We do a ton of research. I mean, there's 20 some odd people just in the production company that work full time all year long on our show. That's not necessarily typical. Our show has been, fairly successful, and the commission an awful lot of shows, and there's a lot of extra stuff that goes on with being a successful show. Excuse me. But we have researchers and stuff. I pick the places we go. I help sort of lead the research. It all kind of eventually comes across my desk, and what interests me sticks, and then I turn it back over to them and let them produce the segments. Our big struggle, and this is just a little inside TV business, but I think you'll be fascinated by it, is that we have to proof everything by the network. So when we first started the show, we were doing, giving them 10 ideas that we knew would work, stone cold locks. We know we can go do this. We only air 5 or 6 acts per show. So a lot of stuff got left on the cutting room floor, but also we never left anything up to chance. Well, we now have 21 or 22 shows in the can. So the relationship is now flip-flopped. The network now trusts the host and the production company to take some risks. So now we can find stuff, and we can get on the plane with only 3 or 4 acts locked, and have a bunch of others where we know where we could go to find it out. We don't just show up. It's a waste of time and money. I mean, we're moving 17 hours a day for 7 or 8 days in every country we're in for each episode. So you can't leave anything up to chance. But what we do leave up to chance is we no longer have to have the boat rented and the guest locked in. As long as we know that we can go to that pier at the end of that dock and there's fishermen leaving each day, we'll show up and hop a ride because it makes for better television. And you see that in the Chile, that happened in the Chile episode. We knew the little town that we wanted to go to. We knew these guys had the best fishermen in Chile, and our fixer told us they left every morning at 6 a.m., so we showed up and hitched a ride. It was much more spontaneous, and we actually got to experience, because sometimes when people know you're coming and the cameras are on, they sanitize things or hook things up for your enjoyment that is more Disneyland than it is honesty and authenticity. Yeah?
With all the foods you've eaten, which
Yeah.
one have you liked the least?
16-day stinky tofu in Taiwan. There is, I'll make sure you're next, sir. Stinky tofu is the national street food of Taiwan. It's served all over China as well. It's fantastic. It's tofu that basically rots in the sludge for 2 days, and in Taiwan, they grill it, and they stuff it with cabbage and serve it on sticks brushed with a sweet peanut sauce. It's fantastic. It's like a cross between tofu and blue cheese. I love it. I then went we had it every day around lunchtime, and it's dynamite. So I get to a restaurant called Dai's House of Unique Stink, and in Taipei, where a 70-year-old gnarled crone takes 2-day-old tofu from the sludge, and instead of selling it on the street like everyone else, puts it in vats of decomposing vegetable matter that she's finely tuned like a winemaker or a tobacco curer or a cheese ager. And every day it goes into a different sludge until what comes out at the end is something that tastes like dead flesh. And I took one bite and I squeezed it down, and I could not do a second bite. And my rule of thumb, and I live by it, and it is my creed: if you don't like it, have a second bite. If you love it, have seconds. But if you don't like it, you owe a second bite. And I got the second bite in my mouth, and I could not swallow it. And my gag reflex, and I've eaten some pretty heinous stuff. Yes, sir, and then ma'am, I'll get to you, just because the mic is there.
Earlier, you mentioned authenticity
Yeah.
and sustainability.
Yeah.
You also mentioned within the United States the liberal interpretation of safety and,
Sure.
and public health. You had the episode with Anthony where you both went to the Red Hook ball field.
Sure.
And I'm probably sure that you're aware that they've run into a lot of, I guess it's gotten too popular.
Correct.
And, you know, and it's the health board is, you know, played the, you know, it's unsafe, even though they've been there for, what, 20 years. Do you have any suggestions on people like myself that would hate to see an institution like that go away? And, you know, what can be done to you know, let the city officials, it's really kind of, my personal opinion is it comes down to money. The government's not getting their share. And, you know, how do you know, where do we make enough noise to let the city know that, I mean, it's disheartening enough that